Okay. Thank you. Welcome to our October meeting, everybody. We have some wonderful presentations for you on our highway to the dynamic zone visibility. Okay, fair warning, I can't actually see anything with these aviators on, so please let me know if something comes up in the chat or if I press the wrong button at any point. Um, if you see me lean into the screen, it's because I'm trying to see what's going on. Yeah. But so we are your TUG leaders, Kim Coots, me, Sam Homeyer, and we have Lisa Trescott, all of which just recently became Tableau ambassadors for 2025. So congrats, Lisa and Kim. That's a huge honor, to be honest. Yeah. And we have Jim and Diego here, who are also visionaries and ambassadors. Okay, so next, up on our agenda today, we have some announcements for you. And then we have the Chancellor's Office update from Chris Ozuna. And then we have some swapping, popping, and more with dynamic zone visibility with Jim and Diego. And then we have some examples of dynamic zone visibility within the CCC system. And then we'll talk about our next meeting on December 10th. So our first announcement is that Kim is in a book. Kim is in a book called Dashboards That Deliver. You can see her Sankey chart there, and you can read all about it. And just, yeah, it's so cool that you're in a book, Kim. Congrats. But yeah, I don't know if you all remember, but back on our very first CCC TUG meeting, Kim showcased this dashboard as her favorite dashboard. And so it's 2 years later, and it's, sorry, I think my internet is being a little wonky. Sorry if I go out at any point. Okay. But yeah, again, congrats, Kim. And next announcement is the Tableau community is on Slack. So you should join that to see or to talk to everybody, see what's going on, right? From data wizards to newbies, everybody is welcome, right? So please join that if you're able to. And then Dreamforce is October 14th to 16th in San Francisco. So California, I think it was there last year as well, right? And so if you are able to go, then Lisa Trescott is actually hosting an analytics community meetup. So you should definitely attend that if you are able to. Yeah. And then Chris, if you are, is Chris here? Yeah.
Yep, I'm right here. So, yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. If we haven't met before, my name's Chris Ozuna. I'm on the internal research team at the Chancellor's Office. And I just wanted to share a couple of quick updates that are relevant to this group. So the first is we had a release on Data Vista last week, mostly a few small kind of patch update type things. But one thing that we are pushing out there is we're starting to slowly redesign the Vision 2030 report on the dashboard. So I'm putting the link into the chat right now, just so if you haven't seen the latest version of it, you can. The Chancellor released an updated version of Vision 2030 in July, which we're just calling the July 2025 version. So we're working to realign the dashboard with that. You'll see some renumbering of the goals, some slight changes to the layout. And we've got some bigger changes to the report coming, slated for January, just to help communicate the system's vision and goals to everybody involved. The one thing I do want to tag on there that we're just trying to make more prominent is, of course, there's the dashboard interactive version in the web browser, but there's also a pretty extensive like PDF version that we've built out. So if you want to ever export that, you can select a bunch of different options, which might be helpful for sharing around at your campuses in a more digestible, shareable way. And then the second announcement I have is hopefully a reminder to folks that are in the IR divisions at their campuses and districts. On Friday, we are having what we're calling a pre-convening webinar. I'm going to put the link in the chat. I'm hoping that this doesn't. Yeah, I think this will work. If it fills it with my info, please just change it. But this is semi-related to Tableau. So what we are doing at the Chancellor's Office is we're putting together kind of prepackaged slide decks for every campus and every district and every region to help communicate Vision 2030 goals to your stakeholders and to your local audiences. So Friday, Terrence Willett, who is now at the Chancellor's office with us, is leading a webinar talking about those slide decks, what we hope that they can be used for, and to answer any questions that people might have about these regional convenings that are going to start picking up over the next few months. Yeah, so those are my two announcements. Happy to answer any questions right now if there's time, but otherwise I'll be here, so feel free to ping me in chat.
Thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate these updates, and we can help share that information out to our folks in the field who may not be able to attend this meeting. So we really appreciate you taking the time to come and present for us. Okay, let's move into the next slide. And we are so excited to introduce Jim and Diego, who are going to do a presentation, if you haven't guessed it by now, on dynamic zone visibility. Jim is a multi-time, five-time Tableau Visionary and Tableau Ambassador, the co-founder of the Tableau Newbie User Group, and co-leads that group and the Nashville TUG. Passionate about helping others. We may have met already as Jim answered a question you posted on a community platform, which you did actually week before last, or you heard him speak at TC or virtually at your local TUG. His blog focuses on helping new and intermediate users enhance their Tableau skills through regular how-to and use case blog. We will put his YouTube channel as well as his website up here in just a moment. And Diego is the CTO of Modux, a trusted Tableau Salesforce partner. As a highly motivated industrial engineer, he brings more than 12 years of experience in Tableau and data visualization, along with 7 years of expertise in marketing and supply chain. Diego is passionate about empowering others through data. He actively contributes to the community, answering a wide range of questions in the forums, and excels at transforming raw data into actionable insights. He also creates educational content, including webinars available on his YouTube channel and his blog. So with that, we will let you guys share your screen and take it away.
Okay. This will take just a second. There we go. You don't want to see that. You want to see this. Hi, everybody. It's a thrill to be here with you this afternoon. And Sam, I am with you 100%. I can't do it with those on. I have to put these on. There we go. Okay, it's a thrill to be here this afternoon. We're going to share with you a presentation that Diego and I made at TC25 in San Diego earlier this year, and obviously it's on dynamic zone visibility. But first, just a little bit about us. Diego?
Hi everyone, my name is Diego Martinez. As Lisa already says, I am a Tableau Visionary and also a Tableau Ambassador. I'm very happy to be here. It's such an honor to be here to share our knowledge with all of you. I work for a Tableau partner and Salesforce partner. This is so huge. This is the most funny and so fun Tableau user group that I have been. So it's such an honor to be here. And what about you, Jim?
Yeah, my name's Jim Dehner. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, or just outside Nashville, Tennessee. I am one of the visionaries, like Diego, and I am a forums ambassador. And quite honestly, in the last 5 years, if you went out to the forum and asked a question, chances are pretty good either Diego or I answered that question for you. Okay. We are thrilled to be here, and we thank you for being here with us. We thank you for being part of the community, first of all, because we feel that's really an important part of the Tableau experience, and being part of the community is certainly part of it. And we thank you for being involved with the user group. User groups are extremely important. But to be honest with you, most of all, we thank you for being here listening to us today. Diego, you want to give a little explanation of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it?
Okay, well, we have already talked about us. Then you are going to talk about the basics of dynamic zone visibility, and you will give a brief example. Then we are going to get into our favorite examples. We have prepared like 8 or 9 examples that we are going to show you. Finally, if we get time, we can answer some questions. So let's go and get in the right on the dynamic visibility.
Okay, very good. One of the things we should mention, if you saw us in San Diego, Diego and I switch back and forth because Diego's in Bogota and I'm in Nashville. We're going to do my examples first, and then we're going to follow with Diego's examples. But they're all going to be there, so sit back and enjoy yourself. You know, we talk about dynamic zone visibility. Well, dynamic zone visibility is really nothing more than making things appear and disappear on your dashboard. And I don't know how many of you have been with Tableau long enough to remember a guy named Joe Opel. Joe was one of the Tableau Forums ambassadors when I first became an ambassador. And he did a large amount of work in sheet swapping and popping views in and out of dashboards. And God bless him because it was a chore to do and it was a lot of work. Well, dynamic zone visibility really replaces that and makes it very easy to hide or show containers or containers in containers or worksheets or legends or filters. It's just very easy to do. All you have to do is remember 3 things. First, you have to set up a Boolean trigger. And I know that sounds, it's a big word, Boolean trigger. All it is a true false statement. And then you have to place it on the worksheet, and then you have to apply it on the layout tab of a dashboard. Now, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take you through and show you the mechanics of how to set one up. And then we're going to go through and show you some examples. Now, I came up with this dashboard. I showed it to Lisa, and she said, you got a ways to go before Iron Viz. And I thought, well, maybe if we could take this and break it down. So with this parameter, I could look at the 3 states with the highest sales, or we could look at the cities within the states, or we could take a look at the subcategories within the states. Maybe that would be a little better. Let's see how we can do that with dynamic zone visibility. We're going to go to this worksheet. Okay. And I'm going to show you how we did this. First, I set up a parameter. This is nothing more than a string parameter with 3 values in there. And I just keyed these in: state, city, and subcategory. And we use these to create these Boolean triggers that are nothing more than a true false statement. And all this says is when that parameter is equal to city, return a true. Any other time, return a false. And we do the same thing for subcategory. And then we're going to use these triggers out on the layout tab of our dashboard to make individual items appear or disappear. Now, this is that great chart that we started with. And this is the city tab. And if I go up here to the layout tab, up here in the corner, you see, we're going to go to layout. You can see that in this area, this block up here is where you apply the dynamic zone visibility. It tells us right away that we're on the city tab. Here's where we control the dynamic zone visibility. Right here, we clicked it on, and we're going to use that Boolean trigger for city that we created just a minute ago. And then we're going to come down here, and this is our subcategory. We're going to add a trigger on that one also, and we're going to call that subcategory. And now those are controlled right here by the parameter. If we wanted to see the subcategory tab, we'd click on subcategory. We want to see the city tab, we click on the city tab. We can also click on the state map and we can see the cities in the state of California or Texas or whatever. And all I'm doing here is I want to show you that on this dashboard, that is done with a very simple filter action. And all I'm doing is taking the value of the state from the state tab and applying it to all the tabs. And I wanted to show you that because dynamic zone visibility works after you've created the dashboard. So you can use all the functionality of Tableau. You can do everything you did in Tableau, and you can get your dashboard working the way that you want it. And you just use dynamic zone visibility to show or hide things that you may or may not want to see on the dashboard itself. Now, let's go on to this next example and go a little deeper into how we can make individual items appear and disappear. Now, what I've done is I've created 6 worksheets. 2 of them are bars, and the bars break down and show sales by category and the count of customers by region. And then I recreated those same charts as line charts and as text charts. And of course, the line charts and the bar charts have these legends that go along with them. And these legends are individual items. And if you ever used what Joe Opel did to pop items in and out of dashboards, it was very involved. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to do with dynamic zone visibility. Well, to create the chart, all I did was take all 6 of these worksheets and put them in the same container. And they're just sitting in the same container. I've got a parameter up here, and that parameter allows me to choose whether I want to see bars, lines, or text. And I want to take a look now and show you how we set that up. And this is going to start out very similar to what we just looked at. My parameter is once again a string parameter, and this is just keyed in values. It's just text, lines, bars, or text. And if we want to see bar charts, the trigger just says, hey, if the parameter says bar, return a true, and we'll see the bars. And similar for the lines, the line trigger looks like that, and the text trigger looks like this. But what we want to do for our 2 legends, we want to see the legends if the parameter is either bar or line. And all I've done here is I've used the in function within Tableau. Then we can come back, and I'm going to show you the end result. We're not going to try to apply them all. How we've applied this to the finished dashboard. We're obviously showing bars. We can go to the Layout tab, and you can see here, we're looking at the bar chart. The trigger is set to bars. The trigger here for a horizontal bar chart, for a second bar chart, is also set to bars. But the trigger for our 2 legends is set to bars or lines. Very simply, we can either do bars or lines. And you see the same thing here for the segment. Oops. The segment, we're using bars or line. Those are 2 independent. We can make one of them disappear or make each of them show independently. So we look at bars, we can look at lines, or we can look at text. And fortunately, when we went to text, our legends disappeared. They don't have any meaning on our chart. We just got rid of them. But when we want to see bars, we can see the bars, and our legends will come back. And once again, I've just put in a filter action here on the dashboard. We go to action. I've just put in a filter action so that we can take a look, and we can take a look at the individual states. And that filter action and what it does is not affected at all by our dynamic zone visibility. As a matter of fact, you can see we got California there, or we can look at all the states, or we could take a look at the state of Tennessee. And we can see what that looks like. Okay, so we've seen how we can work with worksheets and how we can make worksheets appear and disappear. We've seen how we can take legends and make legends appear and disappear. I'd kind of like to go to the next example, and here we're going to get more involved. And I want to do some work with a floating container, or actually a couple of floating containers and show you how we can make them appear and disappear. And this chart gets a little bit more involved, and it shows you some of the versatility of dynamic zone visibility. I've created a dashboard here that's actually two maps. I've got a map of the New York City subway lines, and I've also got a map, I'm just going to slide this aside for a second, of the Starbucks locations in New York City. And I kind of like to have my Starbucks in the morning. And if I'm in New York, I want to know where to go. And we can, what our instructions tell us to do is say, well, pick a subway line. And then from that subway line, pick a Starbucks location. And up in this corner, we're going to pop up all the Starbucks locations within a walking distance of that location I picked. You also see I've got a parameter here that says show hide instructions. And the instructions go on and it explains what to do. And then it says, hey, when you're done reading the instructions, you can close them using this value over here. Let's take a look at our Starbucks map and take a look at how we set this up. And then we're going to come back and take a look at the individual maps itself. I've got a number of parameters. This first parameter, it's our show instructions. This makes the instruction sheet appear or disappear. And this, by the way, this is a great way for putting instructions on there because the user reads them once and they don't need them anymore, and you can get it out of the way. It's not taking up space on your dashboard. This is a Boolean parameter. If you're not familiar with Boolean parameters, it's just a parameter type. All it does is it returns a true or a false. And I didn't want it to say true and false, so I changed the name with an alias to show and hide. Okay. The second parameter is this walk distance. That's how far I'm willing to walk to get my Starbucks. And this is going to be set at a quarter mile. If it's a sunny day, maybe I'll go further than that. And then I've got two spatial parameters, and these are kind of cool to use. If you haven't used these before, you will at some point. It's just another parameter type. It's a spatial parameter. And what the spatial parameter will do is I can pick a spatial shape. And in this case, we're going to pick a subway line, and it will return all the longitudes and latitudes for that entire subway line. And we can do that with one click. And then we have to have one more of those. We have one to select our single Starbucks location. And it's a spatial parameter also. Okay. And it either returns the longitude and latitude for that one point we select, or it's going to return the word empty. It does not return a null. It returns the word empty. And there was a question about that from one of the other visionaries the other day on just why it returns empty, and I forget what the answer was. Okay, now I'm going to show you what we're going to do here. What I want to do is I want to take that Starbucks location that I pick and draw a circle around it and determine how many Starbucks locations are in that circle. The first thing we have to do is we have to take that parameter value for the single Starbucks location, that spatial parameter, and we have to convert it to a spatial measure, okay, a geo measure. And then we take that and we use it in a buffer formula. This is just a spatial formula. And all this says is, hey, take that single Starbucks location, the long and lat for that, and then take this quarter or their 0.25 walk distance that he's got in another parameter and use it in miles. So take it and make a quarter of a mile circle, and we're going to use that in yet another, this is another spatial formula, intersects, and all this says is, hey, within that circle, within this buffered circle, count the number of Starbucks locations, and I just call them points, count the number of points that are in that circle. And now we finally get to this thing, which is our Boolean parameter. Now, it took a little work to get there, but this is our Boolean trigger that we're going to use to show or hide the list of those stores. And you can see here, all we're doing is we're counting the number of stores in that circle. And if it's greater than 0, we want to return a true. And if it's 0, we want to return a false, but you notice I have to put it as an LOD, as a fixed LOD with brackets around it. And that's because our Boolean triggers have to be determinate and fixable at the worksheet level. And I know Diego's got some examples of that also. So let's go back and take a look at how this works now. Now we're going to go over to the instructions again, and we've read through the instructions, but what is this thing? Well, it's actually a text container. I just put a text container on the dashboard, and if you haven't used them, you just use a text editor to put any text that you want in there. I then colored it yellow and I put a big border on it. And I tied it to, and here's the dynamic zone visibility. I tied it to the parameter called show instructions. So we tied it directly to the parameter value. And when we're done reading here, we're going to go over to the left chart and we're going to take a subway line, then we're going to take a single Starbucks location and a number of Starbucks locations are going to pop up. We've got that figured out. Let's hide this and be done with it. And our instructions are gone and we don't have to see them again. So now I can come in and I can pick a subway line, and you can see by picking one location on the line, we get all the Starbucks locations within a distance to that Starbucks or to that subway line. And if I pick a single Starbucks location, now I get a list of all the Starbucks locations within a quarter mile of that point that I picked. Well, let's go out and see what's happening out here. This is our Starbucks list, and we have this filter built in, and it's set to true. And all this does is it returns a true on all those locations that are within that radius. If we pull that off, you'd see that. There you go. Those are all the Starbucks locations in New York City. Okay, so we can go back here and we can take a look and we can say, well, okay, I see we've got 4 to choose from. And if I click off that parameter now returns an empty, and we see all the Starbucks locations within proximity to that line. Now there's 2 other things happening here that I want to show you. We're not going to go into how to use spatial parameters today, but it's a topic that you might want to get into. There's 2 of them. This first one is used to select the subway line, and we go to the subway map. The parameter that we're using and the values that we're changing is in this parameter, which is our subway parameter. And the field that we're using is the collect field or the geometry field on that subway line data. And then I've got another one for the data that we use on the Starbucks map, and the collection of points that we're picking up are from that Starbucks database. And that's all there is to it. But it makes kind of a dramatic impression that we can go in and we can pick a subway line and then pick our Starbucks location, he said confidently, and get a full list of Starbucks locations that are within a distance. I've got one more example to show you, and then I'm going to turn it over to Diego for a while. And this is an example that this comes up once in a while. It doesn't. I've got something that keeps popping up on the screen. I'm sorry. Okay. This example comes up once in a while. I just want to share it with you. You've already figured out that Diego's in Bogota, and I'm in Nashville. Diego's a Spanish speaker. That's his native tongue. I live in the U.S. and I speak English. And you might have this situation in your own business where some of the users would like to see their dashboard in English, and other users would like to see it in some other language like Spanish. And we can do that with dynamic zone visibility. And we're going to show you how to do that. I want to show you a couple features about here. First, this is what I usually refer to as a value picker. The value picker here are the flags. The American flag is in position 1. The Colombian flag is in position 2, and this flag from Spain is in position 3. And what we want to do is when we select the Colombian flag, we want all of our materials, all of our worksheets and all of the legends to convert to Spanish. And when we pick the American flag, we want them to be in English. Now I'm going to show you what that worksheet really looks like. This is what it looks like in total. Okay. You can see for each one of those charts, I have an English version of the chart and I have a Spanish version of the chart. And I have that for the trend lines and I have it for the bar charts. And you can see that once again, like we did in one of our other examples, these charts bring with them Spanish and English, Spanish and English. And we want to select all the English charts at one time and all the Spanish charts at another time. Well, let's take a look at what's really going on so that I could show you what's happening behind the scenes. What we have here are actually two different data sets. One data set is in English and one data set is in Spanish. And all of the English charts were developed from the English data sets. And all of the Spanish charts, were developed from the Spanish data sets. So I've got these two sets of charts coming from two different data sets, and we bring them together on a dashboard. Now, when we bring them together on the dashboard, these data sets aren't connected together at all. It's just the charts that are on the dashboard that are in English or Spanish, and we're going to use the value picker to change the value of a parameter. And this parameter is just nothing more than integers, 1, 2, and 3. The first position being that American flag, the second position being the Colombian flag, and the third position being the flag of Spain. And that's all we're doing to change. These are Spanish values. We're going to change them to English values. And if we were to go through each of these individually, you see for on the English charts, we're using a Boolean. Oh, I forgot to show you the Boolean trigger. We're going to show you the Boolean trigger here. We're using the English Boolean trigger, and on the Spanish charts, we're going to show you the Spanish Boolean trigger. And that trigger is nothing more than if the parameter is number 1, return a true, which would be the English trigger, and then the Spanish trigger is, if it's anything other than 1, return a true for the Spanish figure. And that's how we're able to switch back and forth. Now, the one thing we do here is on our dashboard, we do need an action to do that switching. And all we do for that is I go from the value picker. My parameter is called the flag location, and that's a 1, 2, or a 3. And it just it's actually the sum of the flag location, and that's how we change from English to Spanish. Now, somebody would say, well, wait a minute, I don't have that situation, but you might have a different situation. You might have two business units, and you keep the data for the business units separate, one from the other. But your management wants to have a meeting and you want to see the same types of charts for the two business units. You could do the same thing with, the SBU that makes automotive parts and keep that separate from the SBU that makes garden supplies. Works the same way. Diego, I'm pretty exhausted. Are you ready to take over?
Yes, thank you so much for your examples, Jim. Those are very useful. For example, the floating text box, I have used that for disclaimers. For example, if you continue to use this dashboard, take into account this is private information and the instruction on how to use the dashboard, and that's awesome. So I think that examples that you have given us are pretty useful also, because to change the or to show or hide cheats. For example, when we use the old technique of cheat swap was so difficult, or to hide legends was so difficult because you have to move all the things out of what is visible in that dashboard. So I think that those are pretty good examples. And the last example is also very useful because you can use, for example, in marketing channels. I want to show I don't know, the point of sales and the web commerce. Probably those are two different data sources, and you can show them in one visual. So it's so useful.
I found out just this week that Diego's an engineer and I'm an engineer. And believe me, the old way of popping things in and out of a chart, I wouldn't do because it was just too much math for me to handle. So I just didn't do it. Diego, they're all yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to show some examples. Give me a second while I'll hide the meeting controls. So wonderful. We are ready. Are you watching my screen? I guess you are seeing it.
Yes, we
Okay.
can see it.
So wonderful. Well, the first example that I want to show you is the zoom in example. This is the typical example where you have something that you want to zoom in, and probably you want to zoom out, yeah, or you want to show all your KPIs and the trend about time, yeah. So what I did here. So basically what I have created is a parameter. You will see that the parameter is over here. And in this case, we have the parameter with 5 values. As you see, it has all values: sales, profit, discount, and quantity. And I have used a similar technique to what Jim showed us using the in operator. So if the parameter value is in sales or all, for example, this will be the Boolean trigger for sales. And also we have the Boolean trigger for profit, but we also have created the same one for quantity, for discount, okay? And we have assigned the dynamic zone visibility for each one of these containers. So probably, as you will see here, I have assigned the dynamic zone visibility for each of the views, okay? So that is pretty wonderful, but remember, I will show you probably an error. That's why you see several lines. As you see, I am using here a container, yeah, for the right visuals, yeah. And as you will see, this orange container is not completely hidden, yeah, because when you are using dynamic zone visibility, you have to take into account that when you're using nested containers, also you have to assign a dynamic zone visibility to the parent containers, yeah. So in this case, what I did was to create also 2 additional Boolean triggers, yeah. And as you will see, this is the Boolean trigger for sales, and this is the Boolean trigger for view and profit. Probably you will see that sales and profit are in the left hand, yeah? And these are under a parent container, yeah? That is the orange one, yeah? So what I'm doing here is that I'm creating a Boolean trigger for the left container, and also I have created a Boolean trigger for the right container, yeah? So in this case, you will see that when I select, yeah, okay, I have not assigned the Boolean triggers, and that's okay. Let's do it here. So in this case, this is the sheet container, and this is the Boolean trigger for the left container. And what I'm going to do is that this is the sales or profit. For this one, I'm going to select the parent container, and I'm going to assign this counter quantity. And now you will see that the parent container of the right has disappeared, yeah? And we are not having this situation over here where we have it. So remember, when you're using nested containers, you have to assign the dynamic zone visibility triggers to the child objects, but also don't forget to assign to the parent containers, okay? The next one that I'm going to show you is what I call the container trap, okay? What I'm going to do has to do with dynamic zone visibility, but it's pretty useful from time to time. When you have any kind of object, yeah, you can right-click on the arrow, yes, and show or hide a button, okay? So you have this type of button, and you can show or hide any element, yeah? And it is pretty useful. Where sometimes I combine this type of buttons also with dynamic zone visibility. But in this case, I will show you a problem with that hide or show buttons, yeah? And the problem is I have a parent container that is the orange one, and I have a sheet object that is inside this parent container, yeah? And what happens when you hide a child element with this type of buttons, and you hide the parent container, and then you show the parent container, you will see that the state, yeah, of the child container is not kept, yeah. Probably you want always to keep the last status of the child container. So the solution to this is to use dynamic zone visibility. So let's go into this. What I did here was to create two Boolean parameters, yeah, one for the parent container and one for the child container. These are Boolean parameters. As you see, basically true or false. And what I have done is that I have assigned them to the dynamic zone visibility of each of the elements. For example, for the sheet, I have assigned the show child container. This is the parameter that I showed you right there. And also for the parent container, this one, I have assigned the parameter. It's a similar use of what gyms do with the floating container, with the text floating container, yeah? So in this case, for example, if I select false, yes, for the child container, also hide the parent container, you will see that the state, yes, of the child container is kept, yeah? So this is so wonderful. Okay, I have explained what I have done from the point of view of dynamic zone visibility, but let's do something that is to create some kind of sheets that will act as buttons, yeah? And I'll show you how I built these sheets, okay? The first one is this, they have the same logic, yeah? So I will explain one, and probably you will understand what was the logic behind the other one, okay? The first one is that I use a placeholder. As you see, this is the sum of one. It should be the average, but that's okay. Okay. What I did was to create that and also to fix the axis. So let's show the header. As you see, I have fixed the axis from 0 to 1, and I have used a bar chart. And this is the bar chart. So I have used the maximum size. Yeah. And I also have created some calculated fields, so I can use them as colors. Okay. And I have dragged them here over here, and I have selected the color according to the value of the parameter. But I also have created the negative of these parameters, yeah? Because I am going to use a parameter action that is going to change the value of the parameter from true to false or from false to true, and that's why I need the negative of the current value of the parameter, okay? So let's go back here, and what we are using here is an action. And if we see here, the parent container action is pretty simple. As you see, what we are doing here is that we are using as the source the show parent container, yeah? The show and hide parent container sheet, we are using the target parameter as the show parent container, and the source field is the negative. So if the container is true, we are going to set it to false, and if the parameter is false, we are going to set it as true, okay? And clearing the selection will keep the current value, okay? That is awesome, but we are also going to do something that when you select a mark in bees, you will see that it is highlighted, yeah? And if you want to remove the highlight, you have to click twice, yeah? So what we're going to do is a simple technique that is to create two calculated fields. Excuse me, because I click on the wrong sheet, okay? So good. And we have created two fields, 1 and 0. And probably, as you're going to guess, 1 is 1 and 0 is 0. Okay? And we have added them to the detail in the mark shelf. Okay? And to create an action that disables or removes the highlight, we have created a filter action. And I'm going to show you how this filter action was created. In this case, I'm going to show the parent container remove highlight action. And in this case, as you see, this is the source sheet, yeah? But what is really interesting is that I select the target sheet, not in the one in the dashboard, yeah? I scroll down to the sheets, and I have selected the show hide parent container sheet that is the same sheet, yeah, but not the one in the dashboards, yeah. I have selected the ones in the bottom, okay. And also I have configured the filter action to show all values and selected fields, and this is part of the secret. You have to select from 1 to 0. Yeah, that way that when you select 1, it will filter to 0, and that would remove the highlight, okay? And that is awesome because what we are doing here is that these sheets will act as buttons. And if you see, the highlight is removed, so you only have to click once, okay? Okay, let's go to the next example. I love this example because it is the first example, one of the first examples that I saw when dynamic zone visibility was created, yeah? So it was very, very, very interesting because from the point of view of dynamic zone visibility, it is not so difficult. But what is really interesting is about the dynamic that is being introduced between that. Yeah. So I'm going to explain you. This is like an option to Visin tooltip. And what I'm trying to do here is that when I select a mark, yeah, what I'm going to obtain is that, for example, the time series for the shares, and also, for example, the top 5 products for the same subcategory. Yeah. How this was built, okay? Basically, we have 2 sheets, one in the upper zone and one in the bottom. Yeah. Uh, and one of the secrets is that we are using, for example, a reference line. So the axes from the upper sheet to the bottom sheet are the same. Yeah. And also we are using 2 parameter actions. One parameter actions that will change the value of a subcategory parameter. And also we have an action to obtain the rank parameter of the selected subcategory. Okay? So in this case, like I told you, we have 2 parameter actions that are executed on select. Yeah. And when we click on either of the 2 sheets, yeah, we are going to, in this case, this is the parameter, the subcategory parameter. We are going to assign the parameter this value, yeah. And in the other action, what we are going to do is to assign the rank of the subcategory, yeah. Okay, that is wonderful. But probably you have the question, okay, and what is the Boolean trigger? Okay. And one of the things that I forgot to explain was that when you click on the subcategory parameter, I assigned that when clearing the selection, it will be the value of the parameter will set to none. Okay. So that is so wonderful because the Boolean trigger is pretty simple. We are going to show these 2 pieces. Show detail. We're going to show the detail sheets when they are different than none. Okay? And that's the Boolean trigger that we have been using here in our, I have created a vertical container. And probably, as you see, I am seeing the Boolean trigger for show detail. Okay? And that is pretty awesome. As I said, from the point of view of dynamic zone visibility, it's a pretty standard use. But what makes this case so interesting is the interactivity between the sheet in the upper side and the sheet in the bottom side. Okay, what I also forgot to explain is that I have also a rank calculation filter. This is my filter where I am using the parameter of the rank, yes, so I can keep the values, yes, in the upper sheet and in the bottom sheet consequently, okay? So in this case, I'm using the less than, and in the other filter, that is the one applied to the sheet in the bottom, we are using the greater, okay? So this is so interesting, and I love this kind of example. I always love it. Okay, I'm going to hide the meeting controls. Okay, the next one is this is awesome. This is a wonderful example because it shows us that we can use dynamic zone visibility with user functions. Okay. So in this case, for example, I am an administrator. Yes, probably you're going to see it here. Yes, And in this case, the KPI information is being shown to me. Okay. But if I change, for example, the user, for example, let's change it to Andres Castaño. Yeah, you will see that the key KPIs are hidden. And this is a so wonderful use of dynamic zone visibility because not all the users have to see the same info because probably there are info that is private or probably that is read only for only a group of users. So it is pretty awesome. As you probably you're wondering what is the Boolean trigger. In this case, I'm using a very simple formula. In this case, I'm using username equals to admin, but you can configure according to the different user functions like is member of or all of these user functions, yeah, that you can use to filter which user has access or not to the information. And that is pretty awesome, yeah. Let's go to the next one. The next one is how to use sets also with fixed calculations, yeah. In this case, this is not a filter, this is a set control, yeah. And what I'm doing here, what I want to do here, is that I want to show this sheet when all of the regions in the sets are selected. This one when 2 or 3 are selected, and this one when only 1 is selected. Okay? And this is so interesting because I have created 3 Boolean triggers. Okay? The first one is the Boolean trigger for all regions. In this case, I'm using a fixed. That is what you see, the braces. Yeah. And what I'm trying to do here is to count the number of regions in the region sets and comparing it to the total number of regions. Yeah. If this is true, it means that the 4 regions are in the set. Then we can move to the next one, that is when it's greater than 1 and less than the total of regions. Yeah, in this case, we are counting the number of regions in the set that is greater than 1, and also it should be less than the total number of regions. And finally, the last one is when there's only 1 region. Yeah, and this means that only 1 region is in the set. Okay? So, what I'm going to do here, okay, I will do it here. I'm going to assign the Boolean triggers. So, for example, for this one is the all regions. Yes, for this one is the multiple regions. And for the last one, the 1 region, is the Boolean trigger 1 region. And this is so awesome, yeah, because when you select, for example, all the regions, you are going to see that all these regions is shown, or for example, when you only select 1, you will see only the 1 region Bs. Okay. And finally, uh, uh, don't worry. Oh, I passed the time. Excuse me. I will have to do something here, but I wanted to show you is that dynamic zone visibility can also be used, yeah, with time functions. Yeah, in this case, I'm going to use 4 minutes. And I'm going to
You take
change.
all the time you need, Diego. You're fine.
Don't worry.
We've done this presentation, I don't know, 6 or 7 times. We've never gotten this time exactly right yet.
Yeah. I have to finish at most in the 60 minutes. Okay, but okay, don't worry. What is really interesting here is that you can use date functions or time functions, yes, to show or hide elements. For example, in this case, I have used this type of technique because, for example, I have a customer that the first 3 days of the month, they want to show how the previous month closes, yeah, and in the fourth and later, yes, they want to show the current month, yeah, because in the first 3 days of the month, they are paying the payroll, and they want to the users to have the data from the previous month, and from the fourth month and go on, they want to have what is the current status of the sales. So this is also a wonderful technique, but in this case, I forgot that I passed just the minute, but it's okay. Also, we have the QR codes for my channel, also the QR code for James Denner channel, and also you have the QR code for the Tableau Public workbook, the same workbook that you are seeing here. Okay, so you can scan or take a photo so you can keep it, or also it will be available in the recording. And that's pretty all the
I
content.
think we're available for any questions.
We had one question in the chat, but I think, Jim, you answered it.
Okay. Okay, very
Did
good.
anyone else have any questions for our two top guns here? This is amazing. I've already watched this presentation on YouTube, and I still picked up new techniques and things to learn the second time through. So thank you so much.
You know, Lisa, there are a few a few new features that have been added that when they were introduced, you kind of go, wow. And then after they've been around for a while, people like you pick them up and you start using them, and all of a sudden you find this can do so much more. And you made a comment about one I saw in the chat here. All of those spatial parameters and using spatial parameters fall in that same category. We've only scratched the surface on spatial parameters, and just like dynamic visibilities on there, so much more that can be done with it, and can really do some cool stuff to make your dashboards just bring them alive.
We might have to have you back to talk about spatial parameters then. Because it is an open secret that I don't like maps. I'm not a map person. Anytime I see any feature with maps, I'm like, oh, maps. But I saw it, I was like, well, this is super cool.
Maybe you and I should do a presentation at TC26.
Let's do it.
Thank you for allowing us to be with you today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, if there aren't any other questions for Jim and Diego, again, thank you both for being here. This was fantastic. Thanks for leaning into our Aviator Top Gun theme, and we appreciate having you here so much. We do have another section of this meeting. Let me get my slideshow ready. Where is it? We are going to show, now that we're all pros with dynamic zone visibility, we wanted to show some use cases for how folks within the CCCs are using it. And that's what we're going to focus on our Tableau showcase today, which is DZV at the CCCs. And we have first up, Jason Makabali. He is a senior research analyst at North Orange Continuing Education. Jason, if you are here and want to top off mute, hopefully you're still here. There you are. And tell us about your example and how you're using dynamic zones at North Orange Continuing Ed.
Do you want me to screen share or anything, or?
Oh yeah, if you have that screen share, that'd be great.
Sure. I actually built, as I mentioned in the email, I decided to build one that's de-identified completely so I could share one out if
awesome.
necessary. But yeah, basically our marketing team came up to us with a problem because they just wanted to be like, yo, where are students coming from? So honestly, this is still in the draft phase. It's still in the mock-up phase, right? So we were just kind of brainstorming and stuff. But ultimately, we're just wanting to visualize where exactly our students are coming from. I'm running off of right now. This is just a de-identified data set. It's still like real data for us in a sense, but I just took out like everything that actually identifies anyone or anything and such just for the purpose of this presentation. But normally I actually have this hooked up to our live database so that we can like bring stuff in, take stuff out as necessary, while we're kind of brainstorming and going along with stuff, right? But ultimately, my problem statement was they wanted to see how it was. So we're just like, okay, how do we show, like, first they wanted zip codes, but they also were interested in looking at cities. So in terms of how a geocode actually works, I mean, first I actually ripped our data from our database to show, like, I grabbed the addresses of all our students, where exactly what zip codes are, what cities are in. Natively, so zip codes was straight up pretty easy. You just like drop zip code on a map and it'll just visualize zip code on a map. The problem was, how do I actually switch between the two, right? At first I was thinking like, hey, I could just change I could just change it so that, like, using a calculated field, I could make it show city outlines on one thing or zip code outlines on the other thing. As far as I could tell, that's not really possible in Tableau because it locks you to a single geocode when you're using geocoded stuff on the map. So if someone actually knows a way to do this just using a calculated field, that'd be cool. But and I would really love to learn that one. But yeah, in terms of how I went about doing this is well, the other thing is Tableau doesn't actually natively show city outlines. So I actually went over to this site over here and grabbed the shapefile from California Place Boundaries. You want me to drop the link in the map or link in the chat or something if anyone's interested?
That'd be great, yeah.
All right, cool. So oops, Control Z. So basically, this was the place where I could actually just grab like basically the shape files that I needed to actually visualize cities, right? Because the goal is to visualize where they are on a map. This is how we visualize where they are on a map. So basically, I just mapped that file to whatever the cities were in our thing. It's a blended data source. I don't actually have the book open where I actually do the data blend, but it's literally just you basically name equals whatever the city name is, right? So it kind of just has these in here from data.gov, right? So I found that it was easier using dynamic zone visibility in terms of like as everyone else mentioned, you just create a simple parameter. Like mine is just a simple 0 or 1. All right, 0, 1, show which one, and then yeah, link it to the dashboard. So in this case, if they want to see by zip code here, or they want to see it by city here, right? So it just swaps between the two views. Quick, clean. It's just kind of nice. The other thing I wanted to share is like, because there were times where I actually lost where my sheet was when on a different visibility. Like you can actually find them in the hierarchy because it's a vertical container. You can kind of actually I'm using the horizontal container, my bad. So you can bring it here to bring back the visibility if you want to show it back. So like you're just like putting on so that you can bring both things back. But in that case, take it back out that way. So that was terms of how I could find where actually my dashboards were when I was kind of building it. But yeah, pretty straightforward, pretty quick and easy. Oh yeah, and the other thing is because this is a student data, right? And we don't want to show anything under 11 or under 10. But I mean, like if we wanted to, we could just remove this real quick. And then like these are all the zip codes where we actually have students from, period. But And that was kind of it.
Oh, very
But yeah,
cool.
so yeah, just a quick and dirty kind of a dashboard that we were just doing to, again, it's just a mock-up. It's kind of like in the draft phase because I actually don't know what our marketing team really wants. But this was a place to get started and, just bringing in whatever we need to, whenever we need to, since we have the database option available to us.
Dealing with end users not knowing exactly what they want is pretty difficult. So
Hey,
dynamic zones is a great way to
Jason.
deal with that, right? And like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you can have it both
Yeah.
ways.
Hey,
Sure, though.
Jason, great work. So often we see users that come in with a question and they have to do something. They say, I want to do it this way. I want to do it this way. And the easiest way to solve their problem is to not do it that way. Break it like you did into two very easy parts and then use something like dynamic zone visibility to look at the easy parts rather than trying to force something that doesn't really want to happen.
Yeah, for real. Because yeah, like ultimately it's this is, a work in progress. So whatever they want is whatever they're gonna end up wanting. But yeah, so I just wanted to show a mock-up of like a use case that we're kind of dealing with right now to just yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your example and being willing to
Cool.
share with everybody.
No, thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. So I will admit Kim and I strong-armed our coworker, Maria Listener, in our team meeting today to show us an example that we knew she had in a dashboard. So if Maria is here.
You sure did. That's okay. She knows I use it because she checks my work. So can't hide from Lisa. But anyway, this is just a really simple use case and example of using dynamic zone. I don't know if you can see too well. Can you zoom in on that at all, Lisa? Sorry, I should have sent two sheets, but I was like, put them together.
Let me see if I can zoom in. Let me use my Zoom it.
So basically, I was building a dashboard recently, and I'm still building it about core student learning outcome data from our students. And I wanted to show this information by program and then by class, but I kind of wanted to put it on the same page rather than putting it on different pages. And so I used the function dynamic zone for more of the popping feature to pop containers up when they're true. And then I used like a dashboard action to color the title bars that you'll see different colors based on whether the parameter is true or false. So it's a really simple use case, but it just allowed me to kind of use the same real estate to show different things at different levels rather than doing it through filtering or putting it on separate pages, like I said.
I feel like that's the whole purpose of dynamic zones, right? Is the real estate. It's
Right.
so precious.
There's only so much.
There's only so much we can put on one dashboard.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Maria. Thank you for
No
sharing
worries.
your example, even though we peer pressured you into it.
Happy to help.
Okay, next. Oh, it's me. I thought it was Sam. So I put a couple examples that I've used. I'm a dynamic zone visibility junkie. I don't think there's a single dashboard that I've created since it came out that Maria's laughing because she knows it's true. Since this feature came out that I haven't put it in there somewhere, but this is just a swap sheet. This is looking at our disproportionate impact across semesters. And this is typically the view that we show people because this is really all they care about is, hey, was this group experiencing DI or not? Like that's it. But some people want additional information, right? They want to know the nitty-gritty details and all the math and the stats. And so we've given them this little drop down that says, hey, if you want to look at the heat map, here you go. If you want to look at the detail, you can swap it out. And it's just a swap sheet, nothing too fancy to show the actual gap that each group is experiencing. So that's something that we've been doing with dynamic zones. We used to do this with a filter action, and this is so much cleaner. The other example I have is another swap sheet. This is kind of a different use case though. So this is from our course success dashboard where we have different subjects or what we call program review categories up here at the top. And then depending on what you have selected, it shows you all the courses that fall under there. And some of them fit super nicely in this view, but some of them have, like CSIT, has too many courses to jam into that single area. So it needs to be formatted a little bit differently. So you get this scroll bar. And so I kind of grappled with this for a while, like, okay, well, I don't want to force you to scroll if there's only like 3 classes in a subject area. So what I did was a swap sheet. So now, depending on how many courses are in that specific subject, it swaps the sheet to either be a longer pan scroll or a shorter one where all of the courses fit. So just a little different swap sheet situation there. And then we get into a different example. So this is one where we had our food pantry wanted to see all the utilization that they had in their program. And so I had these utilization trends, but they also wanted to see a calendar so they could see like the breakdown by day. So I have it set up where if you click on this little calendar icon, it'll pop open a calendar. Typically, Diego touched on this, I would just use a show hide button for something like this, but that was problematic here because of this little filter icon that pops open a filter pane. So if you're just using a show hide button to kind of show and hide something on that you layer on top, that functionality won't be there when the calendar's open. And that's not what I wanted, right? I wanted you to have the calendar open and still have the filter pane pop out. And so enter dynamic zones. So this little thing up here is just a button like Diego showed you. It's just a sheet that looks like a button and you click on it and it controls the dynamic zone trigger. And then here it is in action. You can see the filters pop in and out and you can swap the view and it doesn't obscure anything or hide any piece of it. And I think that was, oh no, I had one more. Okay, so I told you I'm a junkie. So we have a series of dashboards at MiraCosta where we allow programs to do a QA on their MIS data before we submit it. We say, hey, you check this dashboard to make sure these numbers align with what you think they should look like. And if you work with the MIS data, you know there's lots of variables in there, especially the SG file. So we have that broken down over here to kind of different chunks. These are all kind of like the program associated SG variables. And so what I'm doing is swapping out all of these things depending on what the user has selected in this little navigation menu on the left, which again is just a sheet, kind of like that button, but now it's more of a menu. And so all of these things get swapped out. So they're looking at Puente students, they see a band, they see a trend, they see a table, they see a filter, just like Jim talked about. It doesn't have to just be charts. You can swap any old thing out on a dashboard. So you'll see that here, that now if the user's clicking on these things, the filter's changing, the charts are changing to be in alignment with that SG variable, all courtesy of dynamic zone visibility. All right, Sam, take it away.
Okay, so yeah, my examples are very similar, actually, just sheet swapping, hide show, things like that. But for this one, I needed to show very specific charts based on the metric I was looking at, right? So for example, metric 1, successful enrollment, I wanted to look at the number of first-time applicants, but pretty much every other metric, everything's measured by a percentage of something, right? So it didn't really make sense to do that calculated field where you're just switching the fields. So what I did here is if you click that C metric parameter or drop-down menu, then you can change the parameter that toggles the metric. And so if you go to the next slide, then here, so for instance, metric 2, English and math, these are both percentage charts, right? So I just hid the enrollment charts and now I'm showing these now that parameter is set to math and English. Another thing that happened when I switched it to math and English was this third option showed down here. So you can toggle between math and English, just math, or just English, right? But I only want that to show if I'm on metric 2. And then the last one on here is for metric 4. I don't need 2 charts, so I just show the one chart that I need, and I hid that third option under the filters there. So a lot of sheet swapping here, but all based on the metric I want to look at. Yeah. And then my next example is more hide show, but it's multiple things going on here. So each one of these things in the orange box over here is actually a sheet, not a drop-down menu. So that where it says business, where it says cosmetology and hairdressers, each one of those is going to be a sheet. And when you click it, it's going to show another sheet that's floating. And this dashboard is for the purposes of comparing enrollment data to occupation data that's publicly available, right? So yeah, if you go to the next slide, when I click that hairdresser's button, all of the occupations that are aligned with the cosmetology program appear, right? The problem I was having was when I would click cosmetology to select a new program, I needed to not only show this new sheet, but hide the other one. And so that was possible with dynamic zone visibility as well. And then the last thing is on every single one of my dashboards, I use dynamic zone visibility for those two things specifically, hide show filters, and then hide show charts versus tables. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. We went right to time too.
Oh, look at that. Awesome. Oh, thank you, Sam. I love a good sheet swap and filtering or tailoring the view based on what they have selected, especially with custom dropdowns. Any questions on what we just demoed or showed you, or anything about dynamic zones or anything from today? I haven't been looking at the chat while we had this open. If not, our next meeting is already getting into the holiday season. We are going to dock the halls with documentation. We're going to do a whole Christmas Carol vibe and visit the ghosts of past, present, and future. A documentation guy with Preeti Loda. She's from University of Massachusetts. And then our very own Kim Coots, who is in a book, is dreaming of a mobile layout. She's going to talk about what she learned about mobile layout, something that I just automatically delete every time I start a dashboard. But she recently put a viz together, which got viz of the day, that had both a desktop version and a mobile layout. And she learned a lot from that. And she's going to share all of that information with us on December 10th at 1 o'clock. And I had this open. So let me put the link in the chat so you all can RSVP, and we hope to see you there. Always, always, always happy to have you present and show off your work and whatever you're doing at your college. So please let us know either on this form, the QR code, or you can just email us at our CCC TUG email or any of our work emails as well. So we hope to hear from you. We'd love to have you present. And again, thank you all for being here. And thank you to Jim and Diego again for that presentation and taking us on the highway to dynamic zone visibility. So we hope to see you all next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.